Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a great Friday. Obviously, the weekend is upon us. There isn't much news for the miners going on right now. I'm still waiting on Mawson to report their December numbers so that I can do my video on them in comparison with the other miners for miners versus miners. Video on that, and I'll do a video obviously tomorrow for the Bitcoin weekly review, see how Bitcoin compared to the miners, or the miners compared to Bitcoin actually. And then today we'll just cover the mining stocks, look at the charts here a little bit, look at some of their short interests, we'll see what's going on there. And then we'll also talk about a couple of stories that are kind of interesting. One is that there's a couple miners going obviously through the IPO process, looking to go public. So we'll take a look and see what that means for the rest of the miners here. And for the industry itself, also take a look at Kazakhstan. There might be another exodus from Kazakhstan, this time possibly going west to the US, so we'll look at that. And we also have a story on a city in Arkansas looking to lure high-tech employees through Bitcoin, and we'll take a look at that story. So as always, not financial advice for entertainment only. Do your own research. Don't fall for scams and spam posts get reported and deleted. So let's take a look at the miners here. So let's start out with Argo here. So Argo was up 0.09% today to $1.10. And hopefully we've kind of, looks like we maybe hit the bottom here at $1.07. So we'll see if this is actually going to hold or not. But we have obviously tested the 20-day moving average here. We got rejected from it, and we're below it now. So we'll see how this plays out. There is no short interest reported for them. So let's go on to Bitfarms. Bitfarmer was up 1.79 today to 456. Looks like it's off of its lows at 399. It is battling also with the 20-day moving average here. So we'll see how this plays out. It's below it right now. It got rejected basically. And it came close to the 200-day moving average, which it obviously got rejected as well from that. So it's going to be a battle now to see if we can get above those. It all depends, obviously, where Bitcoin goes. But we do have some short interest that's been obviously increasing here. So it's up to 5 million. Looks like, I think it's shares that are short right now on Bitfarms, which has obviously increased ever since 10/15. It looks like they're reporting every, what is that? Every 15 days or so it's being reported. So it is up, obviously. We'll keep an eye on that one, see how this plays out as well. So let's take a look at Cleanspark here. Cleanspark was up 0.12% to 818. In a previous video a while back, I think I talked about Cleanspark and where the bottom could possibly be at it, where I said between the $7 and $8 range, and it looks like we may have hit that bottom there at 757. So we'll have to monitor that. Obviously, the 20-day moving average is coming down. We're not battling it yet, but obviously as time goes by, this is obviously going to go down, and we will battle it eventually here. Short interest obviously has increased in the last 30 days. We're at 4.6 million shares short, looks like. So based on their float here, shares outstanding, they have 41 million. Free float is 38 million. So if we're at what is that? That's roughly 10%. Are being shorted right now, looks like, on Bitfarms, or Cleanspark, sorry. If we look at Digihost next, Digihost was up nicely today, up 3% to $3.99. It has possibly bottomed out at the $3.21 mark here. We've obviously gone above all of the averages here for the most part and came back down, so we got rejected from those. We are battling again with the 20-day moving average. We'll see how this plays out. The latest data that we have for them on short interest is 896,000 shares being shorted, looks like. And this was reported 12/31, so this is pretty recent. So this is within the last 2 weeks, obviously. But they also have free float is 21 million, so this would represent, well, it's almost a million, so that's, what is that, going to be 2%, if I'm doing my math right here, on shares being shorted. DMG was down today 0.88. It's down to 61.89. We hit a bottom here at 55 cents a couple of days ago on it, and it is battling with the 20-day moving average as well. So we'll see how this plays out. There is no short interest reported here on them. Take a look at Hive. Hive was up $5.22, which is really nice. It's up $2. It's up to $2.42. Short interest has been growing on them, which is obviously concerning. So they're almost at 8 million shares shorted, but they do have obviously a lot of shares out. So I think this is only like 2 or 4% of their total shares out, or free float. And they have been battling with the 20-day average as well here a couple of times. So we'll see if they can muster the strength to get above it. Hut 8 has, I don't know if they've found the bottom here at 616, but it looks like they're trading sideways now. They barely tested the 200-day moving average and the 20-day moving average here and fell below it, or continued to stay below it. So we'll see how this one plays out. Their short interest has decreased. The previous high was about 11 million shares. Now it's down to 8.5 million shares. And they do have about 147 million shares out, which would represent, what, about 6% or so of their shares being shorted. Next is Iris Energy. Iris Energy is up today 2.24% to 1234. We don't have enough data on them. Iris is a newcomer here, so they've been out since November. So we'll have to see how the moving averages obviously turn out going forward. But we don't have anything like that. But their short interest has been increasing. They have 512,000 shares shorted, and they have approximately 48 million shares out in free float. So that would represent, what, 1%, not even 1% or something like that, of their shares being shorted. And then we got Mara. Mara bottomed out here at 26.27. It is up today at, it's up 1.74% to 28.59. And it hasn't tested the 20-day moving average yet. I mean, it came close to it, but it hasn't touched it. And it's trading below it right now. Short interest has increased a little bit here. It's not at the high that it was back in August, looks like. And the recent one we have, which is only 11:30, so I'm surprised that we only have that, but that's 16 million shares being shorted right now out of basically 100 million shares out. So we're looking at 16% short, so that's quite a bit. Mawson was down today 5% to 503. The bottom was around $4.70 recently here, and it tested the 20 moving average back here, but it's fallen below it, way below it right now. So it's got some time, obviously, before it starts testing that again. Share short has increased to 98,000, so that's less than 1% on it being shorted right now. And then Riot finished out the day up 2.63% to 2068. It has been battling with the 20-day moving average as well here. Came close the last 2 days, but obviously it stayed below it. But as well, its shares shorted has increased to 17 million. So that would represent about 16% or so of their shares outstanding being shorted as well. So obviously we got some bears in here shorting the stocks as well. All right, let's take a look at Bitcoin here. So Bitcoin, I drew this line coming down to here, right around here earlier on. I just extended the line out. So it looks like we've broken this kind of downtrend here. We've gone above it, and we've stayed on this side of it for a while now, and we haven't broken past it. We touched it here once, and we've continued to stay above it. So that to me is a good sign. It's going to become a little bit more concerning when we actually break down below the 40,000 mark, and if we go below this line here, which will extend out further out this way. But I don't think so. It looks like it's going to stay above this line here. Our potential, obviously, could be going down to 37,000, so we'll keep an eye on this one. But the other part of this is it's obviously having a green day today. Had a green day yesterday, which is good. Came back. We had one red day on the previous day, and we came close to touching the 20-day moving average here on Bitcoin. So we'll see how this plays out. We did have obviously the 50-day cross, the 200-day moving average, which is what they call, I guess, I don't know if that's the death cross or the 20-day moving, that 200-day is a death cross. So whatever this is, we'll call it that. And if we look at the hash rate, it has increased to a new all-time high. So I'm looking at the raw values here on the 1 year. If we could go to maybe even 30 days here, you can see it really well. We reached a new all-time high for the hash rate at 216.8 million terahashes. So miners are getting installed, they're getting turned on, and the hash rate is continuing to grow. If we look at the 1 year and the 7-day average, we can see this as our trend line here going up. It has kind of slowed down a little bit right around here, so we'll see how this continues going forward on it. We've kind of gotten to this point here, and we've kind of, if you look at it, the trend line goes like this, and then it just kind of flattens out a little bit here. So we'll see how this continues on as more miners get installed. Let's take a look at the first story here. So obviously, there we have a lot of miners going public, which is kind of interesting to see. Right now, Bitcoin being down and everything else, is it a good time for them to go public? But I think some of them have to raise money in order to grow. So let's get into the story here and we'll see what this all means. So miners going public amid Bitcoin slump face tough months ahead. Production numbers for the next few months will be crucial for miners going public soon. And that is true. Obviously, people or investors are looking for growth. So obviously they need production, they need growth. And with obviously the Bitcoin hash rate going up, that's going to decrease the amount that they're making. So here's some things that I kind of highlighted that were the main points I wanted to go over. So crypto miners that are slated to go public soon are likely to face a tough few months following the recent drop-off in Bitcoin's price and the broader crypto market, which is true. Their valuations that they wanted to get are probably going to be decreased because of that, because of what they're mining and things like that. So we got Core Scientific, which is planning to become a public company through a merger with Special Purpose Acquisition Company, Power and Digital Infrastructure Acquisition Corp, and Bitcoin miner Rhodium Enterprises, which is planning an almost $2 billion IPO. So that's a lot of cash. They could buy a lot of miners as well. Let me see, there are a number of SPACs and IPOs looking to close in the first half of 22, such as Core Scientific, PrimeBlock, which I wasn't aware of, Rhodium, I read an article about them, and Griid. Luxor Mining's co-founder and chief operating officer, Ethan Vera, said these companies looking to go public not only face a correction in crypto prices, but also an increasingly crowded market, he added. So yes, it is becoming more and more crowded in the space, as obviously a lot of these miners that were private before, where they were being funded by VCs and investors, things like that, are looking to obviously grow even more. And the only way they're going to be able to grow is through these IPOs and SPACs. But it's going to become really hard to get miners, right? You only have X amount of production, whether it's Bitmain, Canon, some of the other guys that are making the miners. It's going to be really difficult for them to get those unless you have previous established relationships with them, I think. It's going to be also a bidding war to get miners, possibly, if this, plays out the way it is. And we just don't have enough, I think, inflow of miners, new miners coming online because of the chip shortages and everything else. It's going to become, an arms race. It really is an arms race right now. So another one that's coming on is Stronghold. So the ones that already went public, like Stronghold Digital, fell more than 50% since its trading debut in October on the NASDAQ. Meanwhile, another miner, Iris Energy, also declined. So Iris is one that I covered. Stronghold is one I'm going to eventually get to as well. And we'll probably get also to Core Scientific and Rhodium and maybe the other ones as well. But I got some other ones that I got to finish up first. So Iris Energy also declined more than 50% since going public in November. And then we obviously have the Gwyneth Paltrow-backed Bitcoin miner TeraWolf, which was a SPAC play, fell in its trading debut in December, and the shares have traded sideways since then, according to TradingView, and we've seen that obviously in the charts. Here's some other important things here to note. With Bitcoin's price falling more than 30% since reaching its all-time high in November, and competition expected to rise as the network's hash rate increases this year, investors will be eyeing miners' valuations in their growth strategies, which is true, right? So right now, the miners that I cover, everything else, we're looking for growth, and we're seeing the ones that are getting growth are the ones that are having the higher multiple, price to earnings multiple. They're obviously getting more cash from them, for the stock price and everything else like that. That's based on hash rate growth, right? If you don't have that, you're kind of just dwindling there around the 10 PE range or lower from that. So let me see here. I manage valuation and growth strategies. Companies that can distinguish themselves in an increasingly competitive sector will be the ultimate winners. So one way that they are obviously distinguishing themselves from other ones is like you got Riot. Riot is doing immersion cooling. That's one way where they can get the miners for like 100 terahash miners and bump them up 20, 25, 30% in hash rate by having the immersion cooling. Cleanspark is doing it. Somebody else is also doing it. I can't keep track of it. I got to write it down someplace where all these guys are doing the immersion cooling. I think Iris is also going to be doing it as well. So that's the way that they're looking to differentiate from each other. That, or whether they have better cooling systems or things like that, or cheaper energy. That's how they're trying to differentiate. However, for investors to really pay up for the company, they will need to see more longer-term strategy from the companies. So Eric F. Fisley, managing partner at Crypto Mergers and Acquisitions from firm Architect Partners, wisely added that crypto miners that can operate most efficiently are most likely to thrive amid cryptocurrency market fluctuations. So this is why we also cover or look at miner hash rate averages, see which ones are the most efficient, right? So some of the guys that have the older miners that are like the 60, 70, 80 terahash miners, they're not as efficient, obviously, as the ones that are 100 terahash or 140 terahash. So, excuse me. So the companies that have the higher average hash rate per miner are the ones that are obviously going to benefit, at least in the short term, for the next year to 2 years, I think, because they are more efficient. So they're mining better, they're paying less electricity on it, and everything else, and they're also growing. What else here? We believe the mining haves and have-nots efficiency of operations will reveal themselves in the next 24 months, and the haves will enjoy strong evaluation and strategic flexibility and growth options, he added. So I would agree with that as well. The ones that can operate the most efficient with the efficient most miners, even if we have a downturn in Bitcoin with it possibly going down, I'm not saying it's going to go down, but saying if it goes down to like 20,000, 15,000 like that, they are still going to be more likely to be profitable in that sense than the ones that have miners that are on average 80 terahash or 70 terahash, something like that, where those may start to feel a little pinch, right? So something to keep in mind, obviously, with all the stuff that's going on right now. So next, let's take a look at Kazakhstan. So Kazakhstan, Bitcoin miners, U.S. will make up 60% of the world's computing power in the next 2 years. And, excuse me, the reason for that is obviously the vulnerability of Kazakhstan Bitcoin mining industry was put on full display last week when the country's internet shut down in the midst of an anti-government protest sparked by rising energy prices. So people the miners actually, that went to Kazakhstan from China thought that was a pretty good play, which, it's pretty close from China. So you got Kazakhstan and China border each other. So that's a pretty quick route to get miners to new facilities and get them back up and running instead of going to Canada or the U.S. or someplace else. It was more cost effective, I think. But they're learning the hard way that there's not that stability in the area, in the region, as far as power goes. The government is another thing. Obviously, they had issues here where they shut down the internet. So then you're obviously not able to mine during that time. So we'll probably see an exodus out of Kazakhstan and looking to go west to the United States. So Kazakhstan is the world's second largest miner. After this happened, obviously they fell by double digits in a dramatic pullback from the 18.1 it's estimated to contribute, according to Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance. And the disruption marked a big setback for the market that looked to capitalize on the mining ban in neighboring China. Its hash rate has increased more than 10% since China's ban. Obviously, the U.S. has also increased quite a bit. While cheap, the country's electrical grid hasn't been stable. In October, the Kazakhstan Electrical Grid Operating Company, KEGOC, which operates the national power grid, faced an energy supply crunch, citing both a higher number of emergencies at power plants as well as the sharp increase in consumption of digital miners. So that's obviously putting a strain on their system, which is obviously also turning to, with also some of the shutdowns that we've had in the economies and things like that, workforce isn't where it should be right now. That has caused, obviously, prices to go up because wages had to go up in order to get workers back in. So that's where we are with that. So the limited power supply is likely to prompt another mining migration, this time out west. In an interview with Yahoo's Finance, Hive mining co-founder Daibar Bakovov said that many other countries' mining companies are increasingly looking to the U.S. as one of the top priorities for expansion, largely because of the availability of cheaper electricity. I believe that the U.S. will be the biggest mining hub in the world, he said. More than 60% of the total hash rate will be in the United States within 2 years. And there's obviously some things we have to look out here because if we get too much of it, I think it could also cause strain on our own system. So it's going to be a fine balancing act, I think. The U.S. is now estimated to account for 35.4% of the Bitcoin's hash rate. Harper told Yahoo Finance that because the country provides both abundant power and a more robust rule of law compared to other mining hotspots, competition for materials to build a mining facility or space to lease has compounded over the last year. We're seeing a lot of the miners that are even from like Australia coming to the United States, to Texas a lot, to get their new miners set up and installed. Then he goes on to say in the article here, green in the USA. So obviously they're talking about renewable energy. So Bitcoin's mining energy intensity remains a highly debated topic between climate activists academics, and miners themselves. Miners aren't necessarily incentivized to seek renewable energy, but it's become a major focus as the price of Bitcoin has skyrocketed in 2020 and 2021. We can also thank Elon Musk for that, because one of his criticisms of Bitcoin has been obviously the use of fossil fuels to power the miners. So that was earlier last year, right around, I think, March, April, right around that time, right around the same time when China did a ban on the miners. And that has obviously shifted the initiative to go more green. A lot of the miners have been already green to begin with because they are following the, the ESG, environmental safety governance model. So they're following that. So that's prompted them to go more green or buy offsets and things like that, which is good. According to an annual report from Luxor, publicly traded miners and those seeking to go public will continue to green their operations by seeking renewable directly or purchasing carbon credits offsets for two main reasons. First, companies will choose to do so voluntarily to mollify criticism. Second, ESG mandates from the U.S. regulators will demand it. I believe we do have, here it is, On January 20th, the U.S. House Energy and Commerce Committee will hold a hearing on the energy impacts of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin mining is expected to take center focus. So something that we obviously have to keep an eye on going forward, because there is obviously the more consumption of energy is obviously a double-edged sword, where it is good to have the miners use it and to provide obviously a lot of cash for the electrical grid, but it also is, they have to work in tandem, I believe. Let's take a look at the last story here, which is also on Arkansas. So if you're looking to move anytime soon, Northwest Arkansas will pay you $10,000 in Bitcoin to move there and help turn it into a crypto hub. So a nonprofit in Northwest Arkansas is hoping to lure tech workers with $10,000 in free Bitcoin. The offer also includes a free bike, which is kind of nice, and has garnered more than 35,000 applications so far, which is huge. It's one of over a dozen U.S. programs launched during the pandemic to attract remote workers. So it's part of a broader push to spur migration to Northwest Arkansas and to create a crypto hub in the area, according to the Northwest Arkansas Council, which is offering the incentive. While the council is mostly hoping to attract tech workers and entrepreneurs with an interest in the blockchain, the offer is open to anyone who wants to make the move. It's Wednesday. The fund that's offering it, the offer funded by the Walton Family Foundation, so Walmart. The family behind Walmart has garnered more than 35,000 applications from people in over 115 countries, the council said. So that's just insane that so many people from around the world are looking to go there just to get their 10,000 in Bitcoin. I just wanted to put this out there. So we also have other cities doing it as well. Nearby Tulsa offered workers 10,000 to move there in 2020. One couple who took the offer told Insider it was the best decision they've ever made. So, and we've got other cities around the country as doing the same thing, trying to lure people to move there. Obviously, we have a worker shortage everywhere, so this is, I think, a nice way to do it. But that's it. So obviously, a lot of stuff going on. Miners are getting installed. New miners are IPOing, going through specs. A lot more added to the hash rate. So I actually think the hash rate for the Bitcoin network is going to go up 50% this year. I could be wrong on that based on everything that I'm seeing as far as how many miners are going public, how much cash is going to be brought into the system, and how much more they're going to be expanding. So we'll see how that plays out. But right now, I'm looking at 50% growth in that. Other than that, we'll obviously see the exodus from Kazakhstan, see if that takes hold and how much that's going to impact everything. And I think the best thing, obviously, for the U.S. is to support Bitcoin and Bitcoin infrastructure, support the development of it. I think it's, as a country, it's great for us. I think it's going to keep our standing in the world as a freedom of democracy, or freedom of financial institutions and things like that. So I'm all for it. Let me know what you guys obviously thought of this. It's kind of long. There's a lot of things to cover. So obviously the video on the miners will be out tomorrow versus Bitcoin, see how they did for the week. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. But if you enjoyed it, obviously hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That helps me out so much. I do appreciate you guys watching. Have a great Friday night. I'll see you guys tomorrow and enjoy your weekend. Until then, bye.